Ancient technologies. So, one of the first things I was trying to figure out, and they always want to figure out when it comes to ancient technologies, is the drill cores. Trying to figure out how they did it. They have a basic idea, which is tube drilling, which is something we do in modern day times, but they notice that there's a spiral pattern, which is not common in tube drilling. So they're like, why is there a spiral pattern? We don't get spiral patterns when we tube drill. So why is there a spiral pattern where you're taking where you can literally take a string and then follow the groove? It's like there's literally a spiral pattern. That means something was moving around in circle and it was in a fixed point. So it was hitting a certain part and it kept moving it. So it was cutting while moving. So it was cutting and moving, a circular pattern. So my current theory is they have Waterjet Technology. Oops, I accidentally closed out the video. They have Waterjet Technology, which is water being pushed by air, compressed air at high psi, and let me play the video real quick so you can see water in that Waterjet action. With sand. So there's sand or some type of debris, typically coarse sand, because basically it's a sand blaster but with water. So it's a wet sand blaster basically. Because a regular sand blaster is just compressed air pushing out sand at high velocity. But a water jet cutter uses water plus the sand and the air combined. So those three elements combined. And ancient humans, especially Egyptians, they had access to water, air, and sand. Lots of water and sand. Right? Air is everywhere, so it won't be that hard to compress air. Right? They had something like a bellows. They had a way to compress air into containers, and they can use granite jars. Granites are really strong, so they can use granite jars to compress the air into it. So, that's how they had air, right? Compressed air, so they can release it through a small nozzle, and they just needed, a way to put water and sand into the, together, right? Combine the water and the sand, and then have the pressure of the air pushing the water to get this effect of drilling. Now, this is some type of they call it ballistic glass, supposed to mimic, body fat basically. So this is cutting through body fat in this thing. And what I like about this is that I wanted to see them do it through plexiglass, hard plastic, instead of this ballistic gel is what they call it. So this is ballistic gel, supposed to mimic, human body fat basically. And they use this when they're, trying to see what it looks like when a bullet goes through somebody's body, basically. But here they're doing the water jet thing, just lets you see the types of effects that it has. But because it's way more flexible than granite or stone, you're going to get this extra stuff going on there. But here is a water jet being used on a brick. It's very important. Is the markings, right? So bang, there you go. So you can closely see they call them striations, right? These markings. So there's these long grooves through on the surface of this brick, which you can, I thought I have pictures of something similar where you can see it. I mean, you can look at here. You see how this has those, has grooves, a whole bunch of grooves. But this was done in a different pattern. This wasn't because of a straight cut. See it right here. I believe that, it was obviously it was like sandblasted or water jet which is why at the very bottom it's very narrow, and then it widens like a V shape. It widens when closer you get to the top, because obviously they stopped once they got here. Of course, it didn't get wider, but if they kept going, it would have got wider up here, and then it would get narrow close to when they stop. So there's that. So I believe that they had that because there are markings. I don't have all those images. I should have had them, but I don't have the images that show stone and walls that have these similar markings. But there are images of these similar markings out there. Let's keep playing the video. But as you can see, that's a nice clean cut. Very nice clean cut. And it was, see right there on the sides, like you probably seen in walls and things of that nature with those types of marks. Let's go back a little bit because I want to show the angle of the cuts. So let's see if I can get it proper angle. Let's see, curves it. Let's go back a little further. So kind of see it right there a little bit. So you see those grooves right there. These markings right there. They kind of curve a little bit. Kind of see them curve a little bit. But most cuts that you see, let me show some cuts of rocks. So you see there's what looks like, you could say that was done by a power saw, like a rotary saw. But they will have to have a big rotary blade in order to make that big of a cut going from this side to the other side. A way to do this without a big rotary blade, right? Big saw, spinning rotary saw, would be with a power jet, because it varies in size, so you can cut as far and as long as you need. Right? There's another one. Right? You see right here to the far left. Zoom in to the far left. You can kind of see that it cut through, but then it stops, and then you see it's all dark in here. That's because they didn't completely cut all the way through. They started cutting, and allowing it to cut all the way through, but then they stopped, and then they just started cutting, just an inch down, like about a half an inch down. So clearly they didn't finish what they were doing. Now there's a possibility based off of the way this rock looks like. It's like this rock probably was either going to be eventually cut into a nice shape and be used for stone blocks. You see the Great Pyramid right behind it, or this was used as scrap. This was used to put what you're going to cut into perfect shapes right on top of, and then you cut using the Waterjet cutter. You need something on the other side to catch the water that shoots out from the other side when you're cutting something, especially if you're trying to cut something in half. You need something. You need, I forget what you would call it, like a backing plate or a safety back plate, whatever you want to call it. You need something to catch the jet stream that shoots out through whatever you're cutting. So you could call it a cutting board. They needed a cutting board or cutting rock. They need something to put whatever they're going to cut on top of it, cut that, and this is going to take the blunt, the damage, the overflow of the Waterjet cutting. So that's what this is for. A lot like a cutting board when you're cutting like fruits and vegetables. That way you don't scratch up your floor or whatnot. I mean your tabletop. So let me see what else. More stone cuts. Okay, here's another cut. See here, something I noticed, you'll see in the video. When Waterjets cut, they have a habit of where they're cutting, the edges tend to be rounded. And if you look real closely, it looks very rounded on this. So this right here looks like a huge indicator to me that this definitely was. And there's a little bit of wobbliness to this corner, a little bit of wobbliness. So to me that definitely was something. It was moving. Somebody was moving it by hand. So that's the wobbliness. So it wasn't. So it's not perfectly straight. So it wasn't fixed on something when this was done. This was hand cut, right? So the tool was being moved by hand. So that's why it's a little wobbly, a little imperfect. And then the roundedness of the edges comes from the Waterjet. Waterjet has a habit of rounding off the edges of whatever it's cutting. So try to see if I can show that with the video. This video is spliced from a whole bunch of different videos from YouTube. Obviously, research. Watching these videos, research to see how water jets, especially when it comes to stone, how it looks, the shapes, markings that it make, the marks that it make. So that way I can compare them to the marks. So you've got stuff here that shows you, see how that cut right there? Go back for a second. Back. Pause. There we go. You see right here how it's a little wobbly. See, it's a little wobbly, even though it was the machine was kind of going a little straight. Like the machine is a little bit more perfect movement than a human. Still, because of vibrations, it still was able to create a little bit of wobbliness. And that's why you got that little bit of wobble there. But you see that this marking looks a lot like see that roundedness at the beginning, because this is where it cut. It started cutting right here, and then it cut out here, and then made the triangle. So let me show this wall again. So you see here, there's a little roundedness here. So obviously here is where they started doing the water jet, and they worked their way up. So they started shooting here, and then they started slowly lifting it up to go up and see the wobbliness. Like I said, wobbliness. Mainly because either the whatever they were using to make it go up, maybe they were sliding it up on something, but it was vibration, so it still wobbled a little bit, or they were holding it and lifting it up or whatnot, like by hand lifting it up, still got a little bit of that wobbliness because they weren't sturdy. They shake a little bit. So there's that. Since they had to do this right there and then where the rock is, right? This would be a lot more perfect if it was, the tool plus the rock was in a stationary place with anti-vibrational, measures taken into place to prevent wobbling and get a nice perfect cut. Like all this extra shit we'll have to go into, but they don't need perfection. I hate when they always try to make it seem like a lot of the stuff that they make in ancient times. Look at this perfect cuts, perfect construction, perfect. It's like, nah, none of that's really perfect. That stuff is decent. It's good quality, but it ain't perfect. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's not perfect. That looks jacked up. But okay, you want to say it's perfectly cut, but it doesn't look perfectly cut to me. Like it looks like they'll see something like this, like, oh my god, look at this perfect cut. It's like, that doesn't look perfect. I see some imperfections in there. I see some wobblingness in there. That's not a perfect cut, but okay, you want to say it's perfect. Oh, and we can't do that. Yes, we can. We do it all the time with Waterjet technology and other technologies that we use. So you see some similarities there. Like I said, you see the striations on sides. This is how you have stuff, how you get different shapes. Because sometimes they'll be like hexagonal shapes. And like, dang, how did they chisel these hexagonal shapes? These multiple sides, octagon, pentagon, whatever, hexagon shapes. Waterjet cutting. That's the best, easiest way to do it. It's easier than trying to do it with a chisel. Right? I've even seen something that's a circle within a circle. So, like I said, it's half moon shape. I wish I had the image to show you. But I see a lot of stuff on the internet. Different carvings and stuff that they found. But I just want to show the idea, the concept of like, yeah, you get these smooth cuts, these, So then, that lost train of thought. So let's just get to this part of the video. I believe, yeah, my theory is that they use this type of technology. So I've seen some cuts on some stones that had certain things on it that seem a little suspect, like this little corner right here on the left. How it's sticking out because this is where it stopped cutting per se, and then it's just like it broke off. So then it creates a nub. So that's essentially what that is right there. It's essentially creating nub. So that could be, one of the many reasons why we have nubs on some stone stuff. See here, it really ate up the metal. So you see all these big striations. You see they're kind of curved. See how it's kind of rounded off right here at the end where they had that little piece. This is what it looks like when it's dried up. Even though this is metal, it doesn't kind of look like granite. Doesn't look like stone that's cut. But it was done with it was done with water and sand and air. This is what we do. And this technology is not hard to reproduce with basic materials. So here, back a little bit, they're cutting a tile out of ceramic material. You see they're cutting angles, so this is how you get those nice angles. So they cut it at an angle in order to get those angles, those slants. You see, like on the edge, you see the little, I'll call them teeth marks, little teeth marks. That comes from the water jet going down, and you see these diagonal, especially because it was shooting vertically. It was shooting it at a diagonal that moved. So since it was at an angle, further going to create this diagonal, these slashes, slash cuts, if you want to call them that, on the material, which you will see on certain places. For example, let's try to put it real quick. Okay, here's the slanted cuts fold, where you'll get slanted cuts. See, slant. It's a possibility that this was done by a water jet. Not yet confirmed, but it's confirmed enough because it seemed to go down a certain distance. Like right here is a short, like they only let it go down a little bit, and then they moved it over, let it go down, and then it seems like the process was they want to create small little holes, small incisions that they want to like push it through the whole thing. They wanted to make it go down further enough. They're trying to create little holes so they could easily break this material, right? And I also believe that part of the process is that they were going from up here to here, so they had it at an angle, and it was cutting down, and then they went from left to right, so from top to bottom, the way this image is. So from here to here, here to here, here to here, they kept doing that all the way through. This is why you got that diagonal cut there, and this will make it easy for them to take chisels, right, and then just go pop, 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 start, creating like a domino effect of being able to pop out these little slabs. So the idea was like they're creating a whole bunch of diagonal slabs, and then they start breaking off the diagonal slabs, which is why you get all this rocky like imperfection, all this. That's the way it will look. You see how there's like straight lines, but then there's a whole bunch of brokenness in between these lines, is because they only created the lines to weaken the material here, and it just started ripping out the material, started prying it out, started using chisels and stuff and prying, maybe even a crowbar like device, just start cranking them out, and this is one of the fastest way they could make this space, right, this hole, this gap here that they need for whatever they cutting this gap for. So you get that idea, and that's part of why I was like, they're using like water jets and stuff. The idea is to weaken the material, like stone, like granite, as much as possible to make it easier to break it apart. Because they're trying to do speed, so they want to take forever trying to chisel all the material. They just want to take away just enough that they can just take big chunks out at the same time. So the idea is to make the workload easier because ancient Egypt, ancient Egyptian historians, archaeologists want to make it seem like they did. Humans in the past did things the hard way instead of doing things the easy way, instead of trying to find a way to make it quick and fast. So let me play the video a little bit. And if we look at this video, for example, and see these markings and stuff and see the similarities to other things that have similar marks. Just gonna flip that over so you can kind of see what it looks like. And think about it, he just made this. But if you were compare this to something that was created 1,000 years ago, and you see how there's slants, see how the lines here are slanted, they're diagonal, and they're kind of uniform, they're spaced almost evenly, is because the machine was slowly moving at a specific pace, and the water was coming out at a specific rate of speed. So everything was constant. Since everything was constant, you're going to get a level of uniformity. You're going to get a consistent pattern when everything is consistent. So the fact like I said, you see these striations. This is the kind of stuff you see on stone stuff. I wish I had more images of stone. I don't know why I don't have images of stone just cut to help compare, but as you can see, that's what that looks like. You can obviously go on Google and look for cuts and carvings and stuff. I also believe they use sandblast to do hieroglyphs, among other things. That'll be another video about sandblast and like how did they carve the hieroglyphs perfectly and uniformly and consistently all over all these monuments and stuff like that. Let's see if there's any pictures I can show. Stuff like this, the spiral patterns and stuff. I'll get into that some other time. How they did that per se. Still, I believe they use a form of water jet just because it's simple technology. Technology is simple. It's not advanced. Only we have water jet technology. They have stuff like that. Like you see here, where it looks like they were shooting down. They had like something that was shooting down streams, long streams all the way to the bottom, as far as they needed. It kept going down, 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 and in a line, kept going down that way, and then start breaking everything off within the middle to create these grooves, to create these gaps. And for what reason? What do they need these gaps for? Were they putting something on there, something kind of like a track that needed this gap so it has wheels? Because I could see what's it called, like stone wheels in here and moving a rock device back and forth. And this could be for like a moving crane or something. However, whatever reason it's for. You see over here at the wall, there's a lot of these lines. So we'll try to figure that out later on. Right now, I really want to show the the water jet technology, how it's like it's a simple piece of technology that could be reproduced in the past. All you need is compressed air, which you should be able to compress air into a jar. A jar made this strong. They say granite is stronger than steel, so and most air compressors, if I'm right, they're made of steel. So granite being stronger, well, yeah, you can have granite containers, right, jars, and you fill them up with air. With a bellows or something similar to that, something that can help you, grab air from around you and push it into the compress it, and push it into a container and compress it that way. And then you have a nozzle, shoot it out, and have it come in contact with water so it can push the water, and then combine the water that's being pushed out with sand, and then bang, instantly you got a wet sandblaster, right? So That's what I believe. One of the other reasons why I'm like, it's more likely they had sandblast or they had Waterjet technology is that would drastically reduce dirt, dust, sand flying around everywhere, and you breathing it in, which is a hazard. A lot of times when they depict, especially ancient Egyptians specifically, when they do, carvings and stuff, and they depict them working, they usually don't have like gas masks, right, or some type of respiratory mask system to protect them from inhaling dust or sand, right? So this method would be a clean way of preventing dust, right? Preventing sand from flying everywhere and getting, and floating in the air and getting into your lungs. So this would be a safe way to, especially if you're in a small area, using this technology. This is better than if you were, doing things by hand or using even a regular sand blaster, which will cause sand to like fly around in the air. So Waterjet definitely is the ideal way to go with when comes to clean cutting, hazardless cutting of stuff. It just, you gotta take some extra steps to make sure you don't put your hands anywhere near the stream of water, because you'll essentially sandblast your finger off, right? So you don't want that. So be careful. And that'll be the end of the video for now. Just wanted to put that idea out there to get people to look into it, test it, and try it out, some experiments using, Waterjet technology to recreate a lot of this ancient stuff, structures, and whatnot. Just at least for the comparison, like, look, I did this, and this looks just like this over here at the pyramids of Giza. It looks, oh look, this is from Pumapuntu, all these other places, all these other ancient stuff. Like, oh look, these markings are the same. They must have used water jets. That's all I'm saying. I just want more people to, put in the time and effort to prove my idea correct. That's all I'm saying.